Canto 23. Together they began to slide, unable to hold to anything, for everything around them were only tiny pebbles. What could be waiting for them? A terrible kraken in riotous seas, tons upon tons of leeches, a giant stove, and they were about to fall on a huge cast iron skillet where they would be cooked alive? Cal didn't want to consider it, but as they fell, it was all he could do. He tightly shut his eyes, refusing to even glance at what it could be. Then they stopped. Cal could feel the ground beneath his feet, and Sophie removed her protective hug. "Thank you," he softly said, eyes still tightly shut. "You're welcome," she said just as softly back. Very slowly, he opened one eye, then the other. What he saw was not horrific. It wasn't appalling. It didn't attack the senses. It looked pleasant. This particular level looked like they had been transported to a giant ballroom from the early 20th century. People were walking slowly around the floor in exquisite ball gowns and suits. An ethereal waltz played in the air. "I don't get it," Cal admitted. "Look closer," Sophie suggested. "I've dropped 2 souls at this level, and it's in meeting the souls I think I got this level figured out." "Nothing's going to attack me? Rip me? Eat me?" he cautiously asked. Sophie shook her head. "If there was one pit in the whole of hell to fall into, this would be the one I'd pick every time." She then looked up. "The problem is less how to survive this pit and more how to get out." She pointed to the ceiling where it met the wall. "We can't see where to climb up. You walk around and I'll see if I can figure it out." The current song had just concluded. The people all stopped, and there was an audible groan. Some wiped their brow slowly, some bent to breathe. No one looked like they were enjoying themselves. Then a tune Cal knew began, "The Blue Danube" by Strauss. As the crowd began their movement again, Cal could imagine the old record sitting on the old player. There was always a crackle before the tune would start. Cal smiled. His grandfather always played that specific record when he was pricing merchandise. His smile faded. There was a weight to this song that he had not previously felt. He could remember sitting on the ground playing with a Tonka truck his grandpa had acquisitioned. Not the plastic kind either, one of the big metal yellow kinds, with a lever that lifted to dump out whatever toy had the misfortune of sitting in its load. That had been a good memory. Why did he feel like it was weighing him down? He walked up to 2 of the participants, a male and a female, presumably dancing together. How was he to start talking? It seemed rude to just say, "What did you do to get here?" But he found himself speechless. Their clothes were amazing. Her dress was covered in fine silk with jewels inlaid throughout. It glittered as it caught the light. In between was gold embroidery framed with jewels. The man's suit was inlaid in the seams with diamonds and also made of fine silk. These outfits looked light, but both traveled like they were lugging 50 times their weight. The lady, seeing Cal move towards them, remarked, "How is it possible you can move at your speed? Where is your weight?" "In the song," Cal answered, pleased that this conversation didn't need any superfluous introductions. "Yes," the woman sighed. "We all feel the music, It reminds us of our hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, Cal whispered to himself. The man looked up suspiciously at Cal. Why are you here? Cal took a step back. No reason. Apparently, someone named Lucy wants me to see all of hell before going home. Both stared slack-jawed at Cal. Eventually, the man asked, Did you actually meet Lucy? No, my guide did. She's looking for a way out of this pit. Then, looking suspiciously back, asked, Have you met Lucy? This time it was the woman who spoke. Everyone here has met Lucy. She's Lucifer, and passed judgment on all of us when we first entered hell. Cal's blood ran cold as he stopped walking. You must be talking about a different Lucy, he suggested. We always know when you're talking about Lucifer. We can't not know, said the man. Your guide is following him. Without even saying goodbye, he darted away, trying to escape what he just heard. What did that mean? Was his companion a minion of hell? The blue Danube seemed to have picked up volume, and Cal seemed to feel the weighing on him more. Why was this song so oppressive? Then he remembered. His friend's mom had come to sell some items. One of those items was his friend's 1950s Tonka truck. The mom had brought him along to see his favorite toy sold away for grocery money. It's okay, Cal had told his friend. When you leave, I'll ask to have it, and Grandpa will give it to me, and I'll give it back. Only he didn't give it back, and he lied about it at school. Hypocrite. He no longer knew the boy or even his name. There was nothing he could do to change what had happened. So much weight. He fell to his knees and began to cry. Then he noticed the floor. It looked like the builders had chiseled out a human-shaped space and shackled the person into that hole. The person was no longer there, but it appeared it had been filled with a clear resin, so one could still see the purpose of the space. Capheus, Sophie said, dropping down next to Cal. I was told he begged for it once he realized what he did. He looked at Sophie with questioning eyes. Could he trust her? Did she know who Lucy was? Maybe the two people were somehow mistaken. Instead of asking about Lucy, he asked, Who's Capheus? He was the chief priest that made sure Jesus was crucified. He was very angry in life. Angry about what happened to John. They went to school together, and he blamed Jesus for his beheading. He was also frustrated that he could work at understanding God his entire life, only to have it dismantled by a guy whose father was a carpenter. He let all that anger get the better of him and convinced his colleagues it was better one die so that the whole Jewish people wouldn't die with him. He was in there? Cal asked, pointing to the human-shaped hole. And people just walked over him? Over and over? Yes, Sophie affirmed. But they're dead. They each carry their own weight while not really having weight. Let someone step on you and you'll see. Cal was just about to put his hand out to let someone step on it when he pulled back. He had to know if he could trust her. He had to know the truth. Why didn't you tell me Lucy was Lucifer? Wow. She so doesn't like to be called that anymore. Confused, she asked, You're in hell. Who did you think Lucy was? Part of God's holy council, Cal exclaimed. She is, Sophie said pointedly. She's one of God's most trusted confidants. Lucifer, Cal asked, unbelieving. Lucy, Sophie corrected. The fallen angel, Cal added. Sophie sat back. Why are we doing this? Doing what? Cal dumbly answered, like he was once again 6 and had been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Sophie looked at her watch and sighed. There was weight for her, too. And while Cal's weight had just been felt, Cal had forgotten she'd been carrying hers the entire journey. Let's look at this logically, she began. Why would God punish Lucy by putting her in charge of all restoration and punishments? It's like putting the inmate in charge of the prison, or making the patient the counselor. Why would God do that to humanity? There was one way. If God's not loving, which she is, Sophie broke in, so then what? Hell is just, and Lucy is a worthy judge. Cal had nothing to say to that. He put his hand over the hole where the man wanted the weight of humanity to bear down on him. All Cal wanted to do was understand Lucy and this Capheus. But as he was beginning to contemplate it, a foot landed on his hand. It felt no heavier than a feather. This man felt guilt over what he'd done and asked to be punished, but all he got was nothing. The weight of the world's hypocrisy wasn't his to bear, Sophie explained. He was living in communal sin, not personal sin. This place is for those who are personal sinners against God. The song ended, as did the weight. Then Kiss from a Rose started, and a new weight took its place. Moments of prom filled his brain, which, of course, reminded him of Keith. Damn. This one has you too, I see, Sophie lamented. I'd be fine if I didn't get that break, Cal confessed. Remembering the Pope and what he had told them, he asked, Am I guilty of misusing God's power? Maybe not, said a voice to his left. Cal turned to see a man with a simple brown robe and a long white beard. Sorry, I'm Capheus. I'm not in that hole, although I chose to be for a very long time. I didn't belong there, but we all find ourselves stuck where we don't belong, some more than others. He looked at the hole. Anyway, maybe you're like me, feeling the guilt of something you couldn't help. He held his arm out for Cal, and taking it, Capheus immediately used his other arm to help Cal up. You really are heavy, he noted as Cal stood. I've been called a breather, he explained. I can see that, Capheus answered, but not like these people. You are physically heavy. They, on the other hand, carry the weight of their spiritual hypocrisy. Specifically, all in this room were called to shepherd God's people, and all of us openly confessed that was what we would do, and all of them chose to not do what we promised. Hypocrisy, Cal repeated with new insight. Hypocrisy, Capheus repeated. I thought God wanted us to follow the Torah, and divinity was in following it to the letter. I was wrong, but that didn't make me a hypocrite. Then what is right? Cal asked. The truth is right, and God is truth. The Torah exists to walk us to the truth, not be truth in and of itself. I'm sure that is also true of your Bible, he added, turning to Sophie. It is, she affirmed. Cal remembered the godly blessing she had asked for by the former pope. That didn't seem very minion-like. She seemed very Christian, which Cal was not sure if he had any right to define, seeing as he barely went to church. Nodding at Sophie's answer, Capheus continued. When I was brought here, I called myself a hypocrite. The thing is, I completely believed in what I believed in and followed that belief. Believing something that's wrong and then following that thing doesn't make one a hypocrite, just wrong. Then he added as an aside, my path to being incorrect doesn't mean the Torah is also incorrect. The Torah is still a path to truth. I just didn't understand how. Not that you personally needed to hear that. So you're not a hypocrite, Cal noted. Not to their degree, no. I didn't promise to care for God's people, then use the funds to build a theme park. I didn't preach God's love on the holy day, then slander God's people on college campuses and city streets the rest of the days. I wasn't purposefully placed in a city to proclaim peace, only to cause destruction. They all feel the weight of those decisions in what they wear. When they are willing to take those burdens off, in their nakedness, they can be forgiven. How do we get out? Sophie asked. Cal said under his breath, please don't say we have to take our clothes off. Capheus pointed in the distance where there were 2 big elevators. Where the bridge isn't out, but from down here, you'll have to climb. Wait, there's a place we could have crossed? He asked. Were you told there wasn't? He asked. Garon, Cal answered. He said one of these levels would have me. Capheus laughed. He pulled one over on you because all the pits have a bridge. How else would those who have paid their due get out? They'd all walk through this level. It would be a mess. While Cal looked bewildered, Sophie looked downright angry. He's getting a piece of my mind the next time I see him. They began to walk, but Capheus held out his hand for them to stop. Take this thought with you. What you choose to be when you learn the truth is more important than what you were when you were living in a lie. That's what I learned. God still loved me, even when I believed the lie. The only thing that changed when I learned the truth was how incredibly deep that love was. It was grace, God's grace. Blessed are you, Baruch atah Adonai, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. Then he nodded and left.